Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers win a series in Atlanta. We're going to talk about Freddie Freeman and all the emotions that were shown over the weekend. We're going to talk about the loss of Daniel Hudson and what that means for the bullpen, and then show some love to Gavin Lux and leadoff Trea. That's what's on tap, so make sure to keep it Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's podcast on my end is coming to you from Omaha, Nebraska, where I was covering the College World Series. So if things get a little spotty at some point, just know that the Hilton doesn't have the greatest Wi-Fi. But I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. We are Locked On Dodgers. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. We are both lifelong Dodger fans, and we have spent time covering the team in a variety of ways, but we've teamed up together to cover the team in podcast form. That's what we're here to do, to talk about Dodgers. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I forgot to pack a Dodger hat, so I'm wearing one of the minor league hats today, but no representation of anything else other than this was the hat I wore today. So, Jeff, enough about me, enough about that. Let's talk about the Dodgers. It was a pretty wild, jam-packed weekend. There's a lot to get into.
Yeah, not quite enough about you yet. What minor league team is that?
I can't remember. I'll find it.
Okay, there's a dog. Looked like a dog holding a pickaxe.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, all right. Somewhere. Probably not quite as good as the Montgomery Biscuits hat, where their mascot is a biscuit and his tongue is a little pat of butter on the inside of the biscuit. It's beautiful. Anyway, what did you say about the Dodgers? What do we want to talk about?
Jam-packed weekend. Let's talk about the Dodgers. We'll start with Freddie Freeman, the return to Atlanta, and a lot of emotion shown by Freddie Freeman, a lot of opinions made on Twitter and in just the general sphere of the Dodgers, wide variety of areas like radio and television and everything else. So first, let's just talk about Freddie and the emotions and everything else, and then we'll get into a little bit more specific of kind of what some people didn't like.
Yeah, Freddie, he had his pregame press conference on Friday before the game. He walked in and immediately got emotional and said, "I need a minute," and came out and came back in and spent, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes in there answering questions, was emotional the whole time. And, basically talked a lot about how much he loved his time in Atlanta. Specifically said, I don't want to close the book. Why would I want to close the book? It was a great place for me. And so, or he's not looking for closure, basically. It was about what I expected from Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is a different personality than you get from a lot of baseball players. Even just, he give his answers, he's got kind of an aw shucks kind of to him, and not in a bad way, not in an uneducated, aw shucks, I don't know the answer, but I am a genuinely nice guy. That's what I take away from Freddie Freeman. Everything I've seen about him, it's why he was one of my favorite players even before he came to the Dodgers. It's like, how do you not like Freddie Freeman? And so I think part of what you get with that package of being a nice guy is the dude's got emotions. That's why he's as nice as he is, because he's a real, genuine human being. And I think all Major League Baseball players are genuine human beings, but they all handle things differently. And, in a minute, we'll talk a little bit about maybe one specific criticism comparing him to a specific player that I thought was kind of ridiculous. But before I start ranting about David Vassegh, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was on the plane as it all happened, so I caught up as I landed and just kind of seen everything. And I kind of knew where thoughts were gonna go, just seeing the press conference and then seeing him get his ring and tears at both. And I believe before all this, someone had asked him, what's the over under on how many times you're gonna cry this weekend, and he said, I don't know, but I'd take the over, something to that extent, basically. And Yeah, I kind of knew exactly where it was going. I got a few texts from people kind of going in that direction, and it was that it was a bit much for them, a bit much in terms of all the emotion, a bit much in just getting the sense that he really didn't want to leave Atlanta, and some people maybe got the feeling that LA was just kind of that choice because Atlanta made their choice first. So yeah, talking about David Vassell, I mean, we just listened to his Dodger talk from Friday, and he was usually he's snarky when there's phone calls from wild Dodger fans. This time he went in with the snark and was ready to go with it, and was very, I think he said, rubbed the wrong way by Freddie Freeman. And he called out, the fact that maybe some of his teammates feel that way, or maybe, other people feel that way, that it was just a little bit too much for him and maybe for other people.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about that. Yeah, I mean, the fact is, Freddie Freeman didn't want to leave Atlanta. Freddie Freeman wanted to go back to the Braves. The Dodgers were his second choice. That doesn't mean he's not happy to be there. It doesn't mean he's not going to do his best to win the games. We saw on Sunday, he hit a go-ahead double in extra innings against the team that he loved. He's a competitor. He's a professional baseball player. He gets it. That doesn't change the fact that, he spent 15 years as an Atlanta Brave or in the Braves organization. His kids were all born in Atlanta. His first time back to Atlanta, dude, he's allowed to be emotional. If he's the kind of person who gets emotional, get emotional. That's great. It didn't affect him on the field. He went 4 for 12 with 2 walks this weekend, drove in a couple runs. Yeah, he did have a big strikeout in a key situation. No help from CB Buckner. Thank you very much, CB Suckner. He is who he is. And Vassell, the point he made on Dodger Talk was, I was there when Chase Utley went back to Philadelphia, and Chase Utley treated the moment with dignity and respect. F you, Vassell. Chase Utley and Freddie Freeman. Can you imagine two more opposite personalities than Chase Utley and Freddie Freeman? Chase Utley has probably never cried in his life. Chase Utley, you could cut off his leg with the bone saw, and he'd say, oh, that hurt. Maybe I shouldn't use leg examples with Chase Utley. Sorry, Mets fans. Anyway, they're different people. Freddie Freeman is an emotional dude, and that's okay. It's okay to be emotional, and maybe I just say that because I'm a crybaby and I want it to be okay. It's okay to be emotional. It's even okay to be emotional on a baseball field. When it matters, yeah, okay. He had tears in his eyes. He still drew a walk against Ian Anderson, helped a two-run rally happen in that first inning that ended up basically being the game-winning rally in the first inning. He did his job. So I don't care if he's crying, literally crying, writing love letters to the Braves. If he's performing for the Dodgers, who gives a crap?
Yeah, and in the month of June recently, I mean, he started the month slow. He's picked it up the last couple of weeks, and he has been performing the Dodgers. Overall, his numbers for the year, he's been performing for the Dodgers. I think, I try to think back when all this stuff was going on of if there was anything to compare it to, and I can't remember ever a player who spent his whole career with one team, won a World Series with that team, is still in somewhat the prime of his career, and then went to another team and then had to go back. So, it's a little bit unprecedented. It's hard to compare. I mean, even the Chase Utley comparison, regardless of if they're the same guys or not, Chase Utley wasn't coming off winning a World Series. Chase Utley wasn't coming off, still being an all-star caliber player. He was a guy toward the end of his career trying to win another ring, and the Phillies let him go, and the Phillies traded him, and that was with his blessing. I don't think it was a matter of, oh, Chase Utley, by the way, we're trading you. So it's just I mean, was it a lot? Maybe a little bit for me, just in general, but it doesn't matter on the field, so I'm not going to let it affect me. It didn't bother me. It was just like, oh man, Freddie cried a lot.
Yeah, and maybe some of Freeman's current teammates were rubbed the wrong way. I don't know. Clayton Kershaw had a quote about saying, hope we're not second fiddle. I assume that was said tongue in cheek. Freeman and Kershaw are good friends. Their sons, Charlie's, play on the same baseball team. They're buddies, and so I assume that was like a joke. Oh, hope we're not second fiddle, kind of tongue in cheek. And it was, there's no tongues or cheeks in a newspaper. But but even if any of them were rubbed the wrong way, David Vassell wouldn't be the one to know about it. Nobody on the team likes David Vassell. He's an insider, quote unquote, who everybody hates. And so, you know what? Maybe you should go cry a little bit, David Vassell. One example, though, Albert Pujols probably fits that bill of what you said about leaving in his prime, having won a World Series. And Vassell brought up Pujols. He didn't act that way, but Pujols didn't go back to St. Louis for 6 years or something with the Angels. And Pujols made the decision to take more money. The way that Freeman thought he was going back to Atlanta, until they traded for Matt Olson. And so it was different. Yeah, if Freeman is still crying next year when they go back to Atlanta, I'll say, okay, Freddie, let's move on. But that's not going to happen. This was his first time back in a place that meant a lot to him. It's okay to be emotional.
Yeah. We're going to talk about maybe us getting emotional over the loss of a reliever. But first, let's talk about Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1, which is something that has 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Helps you start your day right. AG1, just throw a scoop of it in your water, in your shake, in your coffee, whatever you want in the morning, and get your day off on the right foot. It can help you with your gut health, your nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. And it's not a matter of anything other than you can take it and get a lot of stuff that you can get without taking a bunch of multivitamins or different types of vitamins. AG1's a small micro habit with big benefits. And if you subscribe, you'll get a year's supply of vitamin D, which is important to add in those winter months. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, dairy-free, or gluten-free, less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no chemicals, all that good stuff. So get some AG1 in your life and make it easy on yourself by getting Athletic Greens, and they'll give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs before or with your first purchase. All you got to do is go to athleticgreens.com/MLB network. That's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And now that you're feeling healthy, maybe you're feeling froggy and you want to take that leap into marriage. Well, BlueNow.com can help you out with that, because they are here to help you pop the question or just celebrate a milestone moment in your life. With the modern convenience of online shopping, head to BlueNow.com, check out all the stuff they have. You can choose diamond shape, size, clarity, as well as setting style. And if you don't know what any of that stuff is, they'll help you out because they have jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So take that leap and do it with BlueNow.com and make your moment sparkle. And Locked On listeners right now can get $50 off a purchase of $500 or more with this podcast exclusive. It also includes engagement rings. So all you got to do is use the code Locked On at BlueNow.com. That's code Locked On. And every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com. Oh, right, Jeff. So the Dodgers suffered a key loss this weekend, and that comes in the form of Daniel Hudson, who was trying to field a little soft comebacker off the bat of Ronald Acuna Jr. and went one way and then tried to go the other way, and his knee didn't cooperate. Ended up being a torn ACL, which means he's out for the year. Tough break for him as a person, and someone in his career who he admitted at some point that he was thinking about coming to the close of his career, wanted to come back and try to win another ring, coming off the one that he won in 2019. And yeah, tough loss for him, but also a big, big loss for the Dodgers, especially right now where it seems like injuries are starting to pile up.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Daniel Hudson. He's a guy who has battled throughout his career. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. And like you said, he almost retired after last year and wanted one more shot at a ring. And so he went with the Dodgers. And he did say in the moment, he's leaning towards trying to pitch again next year because he doesn't want his last moment on the field to be crumpled in injury. He actually has, if I remember right, it was him that had one of his Tommy John surgeries immortalized on a baseball card. It's next time you're talking, I'll see if I can find the card. I think it's a Gypsy Queen card or an Allen Ginter, one of those weird little sets that Topps does. And it's Daniel Hudson, like in agony. It's a close-up of his face after he just blew out his elbow for a second time. And so, I mean, dude's been through a lot. And, for this season, it's a big blow to the Dodgers because with Blake Trinan out and with Craig Kimbrell questionable, I mean, Daniel Hudson was probably the Dodgers' best reliever, most consistent, steady, trustworthy reliever. He had 2 bad games in a row. I know one was against the Pirates, and I feel like the other one was the next series. I don't remember. But other than that, I mean, he's been basically lights out all year. And so he's been huge for the Dodgers, and it's a huge loss. And I think it kind of makes it a lot more likely that the Dodgers are going to look outside the organization for some bullpen help.
Right away, I mean, the the big difference was seen this weekend in a spot that Hudson probably would have pitched in on Saturday. Brusdar Graterol ended up going in, and still questionable decisions on the way Graterol pitched with the pitches he made, especially to Osuna. But either way, they ended up taking the lead. The Braves took the lead after the Dodgers had just tied it. But in what he had taken over that Blake Trinan role of being the fireman, the guy that comes in at the biggest point of the game, whether it's the 7th inning, 8th inning, 6th inning, base loaded, nobody out, something like that type of situation. Daniel Hudson had become that guy. Now the Dodgers are down Blake Trinan, who was the original guy. Now they're down Daniel Hudson, who became the guy after that. And I don't know if they necessarily have somebody to step into that role. So what it's going to change about the bullpen is a lot more situational matchups. And like you said, maybe a little bit more of a impetus for them to go after a reliever at the deadline, because we talked about Dustin May, we talked about guys like that, and they still expect Trinan to maybe be back. They expect Tommy Kahnle to maybe be back in August, Victor Gonzalez, and Dustin May, and maybe Danny Duffy. But even Danny Duffy's said to be progressing slower than they thought. Caleb Ferguson should come off the IL, but he hasn't thrown back to back yet this year. So it's going to put a lot more on Dave Roberts' plate and on Dave Roberts' mind, which some people may not love. But the Dodgers are going to have to come together and get some big outs. And, they started well on Sunday with it. Reyes Morantes got some big outs. Craig Kimbrell did give up the run, but ended up, not giving up the other runs. So the Dodgers were able to keep the game going. And then Brusdar Graterol ended up coming out and closing it down. So, every guy, it's just going to take more contributions from these guys that maybe haven't had the best season to date. But now they're going to have to step up.
Yeah, for sure. And it was his 2013 Topps Heritage card. Not quite as much agony on his face as I remembered, but yeah, he tweeted about it after the fact. He said, "Thanks, Topps, for using a close-up of me right after my elbow blew out. Card will be around for forever as a reminder." Yeah, it's rough for the Dodgers. And like you said, we have these guys who we think might be able to step into that role. But the trade deadline is in July, and we're not going to know if Dustin May or Blake Trinan can fill that role until August at least. And so the Dodgers have to prepare for not having those guys. And worst case scenario, you've got too many good relievers in the postseason. That's not a problem. But yeah, they're going to have to go out. I still wish they could get David Bednar. I don't think he's going to be on the market from the Pirates. But there are some good relievers out there. Maybe one of these days we'll talk specifics about some relievers who might fill that role, but there's definitely going to be some relievers on the market because there are some bad teams with some good relievers this year.
Yeah, and then it kind of pushes to thoughts of some of these younger guys in the minors that have been mentioned as potential bullpen guys. A guy like Bobby Miller, a guy like Landon Knack, who have been talked about as maybe making their way to the majors this year. Maybe it comes in the role of a reliever and a shutdown reliever at that. So there's a lot to get into. We're just going to have to see how they tread water these next few days. David Price's time on the roster is probably getting extended because of this. And there's a lot of Ole Miss fans celebrating outside right now. But either way, the Dodgers will be able to weather the storm. Their starting pitching is good enough that most of the guys are going 6 innings out every time. So that's going to help out. But like I said, it's just going to be a lot of guys stepping up. Alex Vesia, Phil Bickford. Vesia has been decent lately, but Bickford had a bad time over the weekend. But those are guys that need to kind of be back where they were last year.
Yeah, and the version of Brusdar Graterol who pitched on Sunday night could be that guy. The version from Saturday night, but Sunday night, third day in a row, pumping 103. I think 102.5 was his top, but I mean, it was good. That Brusdar Graterol got the weak contact and the strikeouts. That's what you're looking for from him, and it was good.
Yeah, we're going to talk about other Dodgers that are good right now, specifically Gavin Lux and Trea Turner. But before that, we're going to talk about BetOnline, because BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. BetOnline.net's the website. You can go check it out for all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including MLB, because the NHL playoffs are now over. The Colorado Avalanche are champions. And yeah, congrats to Denver. They get to have a champion, because the Rockies aren't going to do it for them. But BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And it's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, also included by MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today on your laptop or mobile device, learn all about the trends, learn all about the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Jeff. Before we talk about the good in Gavin Lux and Leadoff Trey, as he's being called, just want to talk about Kenley Jansen real quick. Kenley Jansen, Dodger fans are maybe missing him a little bit because of the Craig Kimbrell experiment. He blew away the Dodgers in the ninth inning on Friday, was 1 out away from doing the same on Sunday, and then Braves fans and Dodger fans got to have a Kenley Jansen experience where he can't hold on runners and where he maybe has a little bit of bad luck, and it ended up working out for the Dodgers this time because he's not pitching for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it was, it's what you hope for as a Dodger fan who has experienced the rising heart rate and the hair pulling out of Kenley Jansen as a closer. It would have been really frustrating to have him come out and dominate 2 days in a row. He got a little bit of help also from CB Suckner on Saturday, but on Sunday, yeah, I mean, he struck out the first two guys, struck out his best friend Justin Turner, his good buddy Cody Bellinger, and then had 2 strikes on Gavin Lux. And with 2 strikes, 2 outs, nobody on base, down by 2 runs, Gavin Lux, I can't say enough about how much Gavin Lux has stepped up this season. His approach at the plate and him as a hitter, it's your instinct. You want to hit a 12-run homer in that situation. And Lux, he hit the ball hard, but he hit a base hit. He's like, my run doesn't matter. It's the guy behind me. Chris Taylor is the guy who needs to score for us to continue this game. I need to get on base for him. He was aware that Kenley Jansen is, what's a nice way of saying the worst person in the world at holding on runners.
Even
whatever
worse
it is.
than with the Dodgers, I don't even think he cares anymore.
Yeah.
With the Dodgers, he showed a semblance of caring. It didn't look like he cared at all yesterday.
Yeah, and that put 2 runners in scoring position and let Trace Thompson, get a excuse me hit that he didn't know where it went, and drives in 2 runs. It was, getting 3 straight hits with 2 outs and nobody on to tie the game was huge. And it was, I mean, they weren't bad pitches by Kenley. Kenley was throwing well. It was good hitting by the Dodgers.
Yeah, I thought you were going to perfectly segue into talking about Gavin Lux, but you mentioned his approach. He's having a really good, or not good, a really great month of June. His average is, nearing 300 now. He's hitting 280 something, I think, at this point, maybe. Now. Yeah. And has been a guy for the Dodgers at the bottom of that order. He hasn't, we talked about this before, lost a little bit of the power, become a little bit more of not a slap hitter, but just hitting the ball hard for a single. He did drive one into the gap on Sunday that looked like it might get a run for the Dodgers, but for some reason it hung in the air longer. And Harris out there in center field is pretty fast for the Braves, so it didn't drop in. But it's something that the Dodgers had been looking for before this year, and it's something that it starts with the approach. Everyone's mentioned it. They mentioned on the broadcast. The coaches have mentioned it. We've talked about it here, and it's just a matter of, he talked about it too, about how his approach has changed, how his approach, not just at the plate, but in general. He was down after being sent down to the minors 1 year. He was down after, having a starting spot and not really earning it. He was down after not really, contributing in the playoffs for the Dodgers when he could have been. So he's changed as a person, and you can see it in his approach at the plate. There's hardly ever a time that I can remember where you're like, oh man, Gavin, that was a bad at bat, or that was an ugly at bat. Most of the time, even if he does strike out, it's either a good pitch by the pitcher or he worked for it, fouled a few off, and ended up just getting beat by the pitcher. But I don't remember too many times this time where I've seen Gavin Lux be completely overmatched.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning, and I hesitate to mention it, but I have to because I do a podcast where we talk about the Dodgers. He's been really good defensively at second base too. It has been a long time since anybody has said, oh man, Gavin Lux messed up again. I think his struggles were overblown. I said so at the time, and he has been really, really good lately. And now that I said, he is going to make an error again at some point. And now that I've said it, it's going to be today against the Rockies. I get that that's how that works, but Gavin Lux has been very good defensively, very good offensively, providing at least a little bit of defensive flexibility, going out to left field once in a while. He's even gotten better out there. His athleticism has taken over. His routes still could use a little work, but he's such a good athlete. And at second base, he's been outstanding. And at the plate, he's been outstanding. And like I said, that approach, everything, he is a veteran hitter now. And, it's like if we could just ball that up and give it to a couple of these other guys, imagine Cody Bellinger's size and power and everything with Gavin Lux's plate discipline and approach. It could be really special. And Lux, even on his own, this is what his OPS plus coming into this game on Sunday was 106. It's going to be a little higher than that. Being above average at all offensively as a middle infielder with speed and everything is really good. And Lux is on the way up. He's not, he started off a little bit slow. I think we're starting to see what I've been expecting from Gavin Lux for years, that he is a very, very good baseball player.
And you talk about offensively, and I think up the middle, we've seen a few nifty, I'll use the word nifty, double plays recently, which leads us to talk about his double play partner over there with Trea Turner. We got the news that Mookie Betts might not return as fast as the Dodgers thought, or as fast as Mookie Betts told reporters, which he said a couple weeks. It doesn't seem like it's coming that way. So we're going to get to see more of this leadoff Trea, as they've been calling him. And Trea Turner, he had already been hot before that, but he seemed to turn it up after moving to leadoff spot. A bunch of 3-hit games in the last couple of weeks. He's been a guy for the Dodgers. He went over on Sunday till his last at bat, got a hit. I think the stat they show, I think that's now 108 out of 123 that as a Dodger he's gotten a hit, which is ridiculous to think about when you look back at it. And I think, I've mentioned this on here before and a couple other places about how Trea hadn't excited me like I thought with just the way he played. He had the numbers, he was decent, and I don't know, I just never got that feeling. I'm in on that feeling now, and I'm in on.
Yeah, before his 1-for-6 on Sunday, since he moved to the leadoff spot on June 17th, he was 17 for 36. That's a 472 batting average, 3 doubles and 2 homers for a 722 slugging percentage, also 2 walks, so 487 on base percentage. That's a 1209 OPS in those first 8 games at leadoff. Like you said, only 1-for-6 on Sunday. All he did was extend his latest hitting streak, which is only up to 4 games now. But he is, Trea Turner can hit. It's weird because he's not disciplined at the plate. He swings at a lot of crap, but when it counts, he gets hits. And then when he gets on base, he's so fast. He's so, that the Dodgers going into the 10th inning, even though Trea made the last out, he got robbed again by that what's his name, Harris, in center field. Could have been a go-ahead base hit off of Kenley. He got robbed, but that meant he was the guy on second in the 10th inning, and which was the same situation they were in last Friday at the game I was at in LA. And in that game, Freddie Freeman struck out. They could never even got Trea to third base. This time, Freddie Freeman hit a double. That's what you want to do. And that's what I said. I said, don't sacrifice, but the way to do it is first guy hit a double, trade spots with that guy. Next guy, okay. And what they did here, they traded spots, and then Smith hit a deep fly out that moved Freddie over to third. They didn't get Freddie in, but that's how you win in extra innings, is hit the dang ball. They had 2 flyouts that moved guys to third and 2 run scoring hits in extra innings. That's how you win extra innings games. But going back to Trea, I don't understand how he's as good at hitting as he is, because the fundamentals, there's so many things about him that if you were a hitting coach just working with a kid like this, you'd be like, okay, we need to fix that and that and that and that and that. Sorry, dude, I'm the best hitter in baseball. Don't fix anything.
Yeah, and that's when he does get lost at the plate, which hasn't been too many times this season. It's because of that. Because I think even on one of the strikeouts in a key situation on Sunday, he only swung at that. I honestly think he would have had his first walk in a while, because he only swung at that pitch because whoever was behind the plate called the pitch in that same spot an inch or 2 or 2 inches off the plate at least. So he ended up having to protect. But yeah, it's just he's starting to hit, and now he's starting to hit with power. He's added some power over the last month. He's hitting more home runs now, and it's been fun to see. I know we got asked, I think, by someone in our DMs, and I'm sure we'll get asked at some point, Do they keep him in the leadoff spot if he stays this high when Mookie comes back? That's conversation for a later day because who knows when we're going to see Mookie. But at the end of the day, even though he's super high right now, he was still hot before he moved to leadoff spot. So he just went a little bit extra now. And is it because he's comfortable in the leadoff spot? I don't know. But for the Dodgers to be rolling on all cylinders, they're going to need Betts and Turner no matter what spots they're hitting anyway. So, yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah, he was 9 games into a 13-game hitting streak when he moved to the leadoff spot, but they were mostly 1-hit games, a couple 2-hit games, no 3 and 4-hit games like we see for the leadoff spot. I don't have any idea if that's because he's batting leadoff, but yeah, we probably will spend a segment on that in the next few days or the next week or so about what they do when Mookie comes back, because it's going to be a tough one. Who knows what they'll do? And yeah, there's plenty to talk about, and we'll see how he does in Colorado. Hopefully, Dodgers heading to Colorado now. They picked up 2 games on the Padres this weekend. The Padres, I guess he just picked up 1 game over the week because the Padres lost 2 out of 3. Dodgers won 2 out of 3. So they picked up 1 game. So they're up by 2 games now. Padres are off on Monday, so Dodgers have to have a chance to go up by 2.5 before the Padres play again. And that will be awesome. It's kind of getting to that point in the season where we start paying attention to that a little bit. And Dodgers going to Colorado with a chance to avenge that opening week loss, series loss. And hopefully the offense can continue to roll. They didn't roll in Atlanta quite like they did in Cincinnati because the Braves are a major league team. But the Rockies are less of a major league team. And their stadium is a joke of a stadium. So hopefully the offense can pick up where they left off in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, the Braves are now 19-5 in the month of June, and 2 of those 5 losses were this weekend to the Dodgers. So, the Dodgers came in and won a tough series, and it was good on them. We didn't talk about any of the starting pitching, but Tony Gonsolin looked good. Slightly raised his ERA, gave up 1 run in those 6 innings. But, the Dodgers helped him avoid a loss for whatever that means, keep the blemish off his record. Julio Diaz looked really good. So, just want to give a quick shout out to those guys, but there was just a lot more to talk about. Anything else you want to mention about the weekend or in general?
Yeah, this was your classic Monday episode where we had way too much that happened over the weekend to get to all of it. But there is, we'll have Kimbrel stuff to talk about. Kimbrel got a save and a blown save this weekend. Didn't have a clean inning either time. Both times he just gave up 1 hit to Matt Olson, both times, but the second time that was with the runner on second. And so there's stuff to talk about Kimbrel. There's stuff to talk about, really all the bullpen, all the starters. And so, yeah, we'll definitely be getting into more of that as it goes. Hopefully these Rockies games will be a little bit uneventful, just big blowout wins and let us relax a little bit,
Yeah, it's one of those series where, you hear about it, and I don't think it, but then the Dodgers got swept by the Pirates that one time when they were about to play the Mets. Coming off this type of series where there was a lot of emotion in general, and the Braves going into a series at the end of the week with the Padres, this Rocky series seems like one of those ones they call a trap series. So hopefully the Dodgers just take care of business and don't let it be that. But that remains to be seen. That's all we got for you guys. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. If you need another listen, check out Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. DMs are open on those 2 accounts if you want to ask us a question or have a comment. You can also do that to Jeff at Snider on Twitter or me at Vince Samperio. You can always get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-LOCK. That's 5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Tell your smart device play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.